That day, the Korean people remembered that the greatest event to shake the Korean peninsula was about to erupt. The clouds trapped inside the strait, the fate of 70 million people.
Never lose under these skies.
He wanted to maintain it. Because with North Korea, China can have a path to the Pacific Ocean. Currently, China is structured in a way that it cannot access the East Sea. In 1860, China ceded the Primorsky region to Russia through the Treaty of Beijing. Since then, China has been unable to influence the East Sea. China, vying for hegemony, primarily seeks to expand into the Pacific Ocean. But a treaty that was signed more than 100 years ago is now holding China back, so it's only natural that they're frustrated. So China expanded its influence over North Korea, and at the same time made North Korea's East Coast ports its own, forming a strategy to project its influence into the East Sea as well. But in an unexpected place, China gets held back again. This time it was Russia. Russia signed a deadly military alliance with North Korea in 2024. Following the 2022 Ukraine war, a new Cold War era began. Russia, seeking to escape international isolation, started signing treaties with former Soviet-influenced countries. In 2024, during the North Korea-Russia summit, the two countries signed the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty between North Korea and Russia. Since this treaty included an automatic military intervention clause, it also meant that Russia and North Korea were entering into a deadly alliance. But this was bad news for China. Currently, China and Russia are smiling together as they pursue the goal of collapsing American global hegemony, but their relationship is not always good. China's plan to gradually turn Russia into its subordinate country has been rejected by Russia. After North Korea and Russia signed a 2024 military alliance, China's foreign ministry responded with terse, sarcastic remarks in briefings, revealing their unease. North Korea has been improving ties with Russia, lessening its reliance on China while indirectly showing discontent with China's support, constrained by United Nations sanctions. China's diplomatic calculations grew more complex, leading to a growing sense of crisis about the situation. To address this issue, China started heavily investing in North Korea beginning in 2024. Of course, this was a violation of United Nations Security Council sanctions, but China started using every possible method to inject various forms of capital into North Korea. But they also increased transportation quite a bit. China and North Korea have increased their flights between Pyongyang and Beijing from 3 times a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to daily flights. They enabled North Korean workers to work in Manchuria, and Chinese companies started investing heavily in North Korea. The international community harshly criticized China's actions, but to China, seeking to maintain influence against Russia, the criticisms merely seemed like nagging. China covertly provided weapons and military supplies to North Korea via Nampo Port to increase its influence over the country. North Korea had no money, so none of these things were being managed. In that situation, Russia was unable to focus on North Korea. Belarus continuously supported Russia during the Ukraine war, and as international isolation accelerated, the people's economy was getting even worse. In that situation, when an opposition figure died in police custody in Belarus, it sparked democratic protests. Pro-democracy activists believed the person died from torture by Belarusian police and began protesting in the streets. The democratic protests intensified, surpassing the 2020 Belarus protests with 600,000 to 700,000 participants. It became the largest anti-government protest in Belarusian history. Following this incident, the situation worsened, with the death toll surpassing 20 people. If Belarus became democratized, it would worsen the situation for Russia, leaving Russia no choice but to focus solely on Belarus. China saw Russia's situation and thought this was an opportunity to make North Korea completely its own. Observing the Ukraine war, China considered using volunteer forces, a favored gray zone diplomatic tactic. The gray zone strategy refers to most strategic actions by a country to achieve its security goals gradually without revealing its true intentions. It refers to actions that achieve political goals while avoiding direct military conflict between governments. China took note of this with the concept of volunteer forces. After the 2022 Ukraine war, China established numerous PMCs within its own country. They started actively considering using this, particularly by training volunteer forces from ethnic minorities. China actively utilized Inner Mongolians to create a fairly high-level military force. But in that situation, Kim Jong-un suddenly died. Kim Jong-un suffered from numerous health issues, earning him the nickname Walking Hospital. He weighed 140 kg, took Zolpidem for insomnia, and had illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, hyperlipidemia, and colon cancer. His death was expected, yet domestic intelligence agencies believed he would live at least another decade. On July 20th, 2026, Kim Jong-un died unexpectedly without appointing a successor. Kim Ju-ae, born in 2013, was often brought to official events by him as if she were the official successor, despite never being formally designated. She was only 13 years old in 2026. She was only in the 6th grade of elementary school. Because she was so young, it was impossible to make her the leader of a country. Moreover, Kim Jong-un died suddenly and unexpectedly, so he wasn't even able to leave a will before he passed away. The political factions within North Korea were split into two, one supporting Kim Ju-ae, the strong successor, and the other following Kim Yo-jong, Kim Jong-un's younger sister and the person closest to power. The Kim Ju-ae faction included the Ministry of Defense, Strategic Force, Special Operations Force, Reconnaissance General Bureau, Guard Command, Workers' Party of Korea, Civil Defense Minister, and Chief of the Missile Bureau. The Kim Yo-jong faction consisted of the Air Force, Navy, Minister of Social Security, Director of the State Security Department, Chief of Investigation and Inspection, and some Special Operations Force Brigade commanders. The Chief of Investigation and Inspection's affiliation with either the Kim Yo-jong or Kim Ju-ae faction was unclear. The secretive nature of the Investigation and Inspection group meant that its members' identities were unknown. The organization is said to secretly investigate corruption among North Korean party, military, and government officials. Kim Jong-un established an intelligence agency under his direct control due to his lack of trust in the security department. In other words, it's like the North Korean version of a secret royal inspector. However, Jo Sajang-hak Seon-jang supported Kim Yo-jong, but the Kim Ju-ae faction thought Jo remained neutral. General Guak Chang-sik, commander of the Guard Command, led the Kim Ju-ae faction as Kim Ju-ae was too young. General Guak Chang-sik was also favored by Kim Jong-un. General Guak Chang-sik probably thought of himself as a loyalist who was trying to make Kim Jong-un's daughter the supreme leader. The Kim Yo-jong faction, led by Kim Yo-jong herself, opposed having a leader younger than her take control of North Korea. Above all, she knew better than anyone during Kim Jong-un's rule that if she lost here, it would mean death, so she had to seize power no matter what. Upon learning of Kim Jong-un's death during his Sinuiju visit, she immediately boarded a train, rushing to Pyongyang. The train derailed after mysterious organizations launched an anti-tank missile attack, causing utter chaos at the scene. Kim Hye-jung was also getting delayed on her way to Pyongyang and Anju. This is the Osadam Artillery Brigade. Due to the collapse of the North Korean intelligence network, we were unaware of the situation in North Korea. After reports of Kim Jong-un's death, South Korea deployed reconnaissance aircraft to the front lines and closely monitored North Korea through surveillance assets. But the movements of the North Korean military were somewhat different. They were moving quite actively, almost as if they were preparing for war. South Korea's military raised their firepower readiness posture as a precaution, increasing the number of combat-ready artillery pieces. Naturally, the fatigue level of the soldiers also increased, so many of them were quite dissatisfied with the situation. The 988th Artillery Battalion's main artillery pieces were K9 self-propelled howitzers, which are the primary equipment of the South Korean Army's artillery forces and a flagship product of South Korea's defense industry. Since the first 1,999 prototype around 1,300 units are now operational, it offers excellent cost-effectiveness, combining powerful firepower, performance, and the benefits of mass production and ongoing maintenance. The K9 self-propelled howitzer can launch shells up to 60 kilotwrs with specific ammo types. It was an artillery piece that could fire 6 to 8 rounds per minute. The weapon would be crucial in the future, but they maintained their artillery oblivious to their impending fate. The entire military was still holding a video conference. President Lee Myung-hae-on was also participating in the meeting. It was a moment that made everyone feel something big was imminent. North Korean forces were gathering, and the situation on the Korean peninsula remained tense. A chill began to envelop the entire peninsula. The military went on full emergency alert, the police issued a standby emergency order, and civil servants were put on emergency duty level 4. The situation was becoming increasingly urgent. They raised the WACHCON, the North Korea Information Surveillance Alert, from level 3 to 2, and the DEFCON, the North Korea Defense Readiness Alert, from level 4 to the Combat Readiness level 3. The North Korean military's movements were suspicious. The alert readiness posture was raised to prepare for potential provocations from North Korea. Additional personnel were assigned to 5-minute standby units and guard posts, and reconnaissance flights over North Korea were increased for continuous surveillance. The police were also on emergency alert, and at the same time, President Lee Myung-hwan ordered government officials to be on emergency duty. In Pyongyang, after confirming that Kim Yo-jong did not arrive due to a mysterious attack, they began investigating the situation and at the same time prepared a plan to elevate Kim Ju-ye to the position of supreme leader. Power does not tolerate a vacuum. First, the Kim Jong-un Memorial Committee decided to put Kim Ju-ye at the top, making her the #1 candidate for power.
We must quickly handle the eternal chairman of the State Affairs Commission's funeral. With the deputy director of the Propaganda and Agitation Department missing in Anju following a terrorist attack, we must find a way to overcome this national crisis.
Even the director comrade did not come. Just put him in the cell.
Fierce political strife was taking place inside Pyongyang. The power struggle to form the Kim Jong-un Memorial Committee, that is, the funeral committee, was also continuing. Kim Hae-jung's faction suspected the Kim Ju-hae faction staged a coup after the attack on Kim Hae-jung's train and Kim Jong-un's sudden death, and they started trying to stop it by any means necessary. In Pyongyang, the Guard Command heightened its alert status, while top Ministry of State Security officials from the Kim Hae-jung faction closely observed the Guard Command's activities. The Guard Command claimed it was a national disaster and heightened security in Pyongyang. They raised troop levels in Pyongyang and added more checkpoints. This was also a ploy by the Guard Command to seize control of key institutions in Pyongyang. Tensions were high between the Guard Command and the State Security Department, with indications that a confrontation was imminent. Following the terrorist attack in Anju, the Guard Command restricted access to Pyongyang. Entry and exit were prohibited. Because of that, the movements of Jo Sajang-akseon were very urgent. Jo Sajang-akseon covertly films North Korean officials using a hidden camera while concealing his identity. He's essentially a North Korean secret agent, working as an intelligence officer directly under Kim Jong-un, providing him with all information. However, when the Guard Command tried to control everything by making Kim Ju-hae the supreme leader, Jo Sajang-akseon sided with Kim Yo-jong's faction and started investigating the Guard Command. As political tensions rose, the Guard Command took no action, and the formation of the Memorial Committee was deprioritized. Many people didn't belong to the Kim Yo-jong faction, the Kim Ju-hae faction, or any other group. These people believed that Kim Yo-jong and Kim Ju-hae should not lead North Korea solely because of their gender. North Korea is more conservative than South Korea and cannot imagine a woman leading the country. Many officials and military officers belonged to no faction. They watched each other, waiting for a chance to take a position for themselves. Meanwhile, the South Korean government headquarters had no idea what was happening in North Korea. This occurred due to the collapse of the entire intelligence network against North Korea. They obtained brief information about the situation in North Korea through the North Korean Liberal Democratic Party. The United States continued pressuring South Korea after a partial troop withdrawal, making it challenging to utilize America's superior intelligence resources. The North Korean Liberal Democratic Party is a liberal democratic party in North Korea. The party's name indicates it completely opposes North Korea and the Workers' Party of Korea, so it is not a North Korean party. It's closer to an anti-regime organization. The North Korean Liberal Democratic Party sought to topple the current North Korean regime and form a new nation named Joseon, becoming its inaugural governing party. Since 2023, a series of terrorist attacks targeting high-ranking officials have occurred in Pyongyang, and all of them were carried out by the North Korean Liberal Democratic Party. The North Korean Liberal Democratic Party has begun targeting the leadership's bloodline, including the recent attack on Kim Yo-jong. Their goal is to eliminate North Korea's hereditary system and Kim Jong-un, abolish the North Korean regime, and establish Joseon, so it's only natural that Kim Yo-jong would be a target for elimination. The failed assassination attempt on Kim Yo-jong by terrorists has significantly shaken North Korea. They eventually collaborated with South Korea and began interacting as they had their own ideas. They began cooperating with South Korea using the North Korean Liberal Democratic Party's government network. The news they delivered was truly shocking. They said that they carried out a certain scheme, and it worked so well that the North Korean political world is now in complete chaos. It was confirmed that Russian weapons had reached the North Korean Liberal Democratic Party. The government command realized the situation in North Korea was dire, and there were also reports that China and Kim Yo-jong had made contact. But there was information coming out that China would take advantage if a sudden crisis occurred in North Korea. As mentioned earlier, rebuilding the collapsed intelligence network on North Korea was the priority, so everything else was ignored.
Form the Nailet Soccer Committee.
Honestly, forming the committee is just a formality. The chief hasn't made a decision yet.
Why are the state council members so silent?
It's almost a shock to the people.
Just a moment, they'll be here soon.
You understand that the formation of the Independent Funeral Committee will include Deputy Director Guk as well, right? Kim Jong-un.
The funeral committee was formed 4 days after the death. Looking at the time it took until then, the formation of the memorial committee was very late. It also signified a chaotic succession process and an ongoing power struggle in North Korea. Fortunately, Kim Yo-jong was able to survive the terror attack. The rocket-propelled grenade, 26, used in the attack had a range of only 250 meters, preventing a fatal blow. North Korea's outdated railway infrastructure meant the train was moving slowly, ultimately saving Kim Yo-jong's life. He was very lucky. Kim Yo-jong fainted from shock during the process, but to prevent another assassination attempt, only the State Security Department was informed. After that, as the political situation worsened, she appeared in Pyongyang. Meanwhile, China supported the Kim Yo-jong faction, but Kim Jong-un distrusted China. Kim Jong-il's last words warned against trusting China, and Kim Jong-un knew of China's intentions to take over North Korea. That's why he joined hands with Russia, but Kim Yo-jong, facing the immediate threat of being ousted, was cooperating with China. The Guard Command, Kim Ju-wee's vanguard, distrusts China, leading China to consider making Kim Yo-jong North Korea's leader. They provided generous support and manipulated information to elevate Kim Yo-jong's faction. They altered information to frame the Guard Command for the recent attack on Kim Yo-jong's train and presented this to Kim Yo-jong. Despite belonging to different organizations, they considered using Kim Yo-jong to take over North Korea. From this point, Kim Yo-jong used this to justify getting rid of Kim Ju-ovai, or she herself would be in danger of dying first.
The tone of regret must align with our interests. No matter what, we have to use Jinru Zhenhan to stand on our side. There might be a big storm, but even so. Otherwise, Han Peninsula itself will no longer be within our sphere of influence.
The military is already taking action. All we can do is try our best to stop the United States.
A South Korean civilian group, the Free North Korea Movement Union, sent anti-North Korean leaflets into North Korea. These anti-North Korean leaflets have a detrimental effect on the North Korean regime. Residents near the border become agitated, and resistance against the North Korean regime increases, dealing a major blow to their government. But after Kim Jong-un's sudden death, the civilian group Free North Korea Movement took a bold step by sending anti-North Korean leaflets into North Korea. The North Korean military, under orders from the Ministry of Defense, started intercepting anti-North Korean leaflets. They used twin 57mm self-propelled anti-aircraft guns to shoot down the leaflets, but a problem occurred. The self-propelled anti-aircraft gun shells landed south of the demilitarized zone on South Korean territory. No casualties were reported, but the South Korean military viewed this as a North Korean provocation and retaliated by firing 20 rounds from K9 self-propelled howitzers at North Korea. The 5th Division Artillery handled this task entirely at night, but another issue arose. A problem occurred because they fired the artillery without properly understanding the D-type fingerprint in the operation area. To prevent escalation, they were to fire into the open field, but the Brigade Intelligence Section and the 988th Artillery Battalion carrying out the mission had poor information sharing. The Brigade Intel Section targeted an open field and relayed the coordinates to the 988th Artillery Battalion, but later, North Korean troops passed through that field. The Brigade Intelligence Section failed to anticipate this. The Brigade Intelligence Section urgently ordered the 988th Thief Artillery Battalion to cease fire, but the battalion's guns had already opened fire. It was a situation where no one could take responsibility, but everyone knew this incident would turn out badly. Consequently, 7 North Korean soldiers patrolling the field were killed. If there was any relief, it's that in order to prevent the conflict from escalating, no attacks were made on the field and North Korean facilities were not destroyed. However, the biggest issue was that 7 North Korean soldiers were killed by the South Korean military. The incident heightened tensions between North and South Korea. Amid North Korea's unstable politics, Kim Yo-jong viewed the provocation as a chance to seize control of her regime. Kim Yo-jong, in a speech at the Memorial Committee formation, publicly admitted to South Korea's heinous provocation both domestically and internationally. After receiving a report from Jo Sajang-hak Sion that the Ministry of Defense had issued instructions, she mentioned in her speech that she had obtained intelligence from China indicating the Guard Command had tried to eliminate Kim Yo-jong, justifying her actions. Kim Yo-jong took action, making the first move out of concern that further delay would lead to her elimination. Kim Yo-jong's actions led to a North Korean strife of the princes. Kim Yo-jong gathered all her forces and ended up launching a coup that should never have happened.
Korean subtitles by Han Yo-jong. Korean subtitles by Han Yo-jong.